August 22nd meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
All right, boss.
All right, let's get this showing up. There are no minutes. We'll start off with small project, 21848 Caroline Way.
So this is a fairly simple filing for a sewer connection. As you all recall from the Edgewood project, there's a swale that runs under the Edgewood driveway, which you can see in this photo. What you'll see in the next plan is the location on the preschool cul-de-sac where the sewer connection exists. And then we've also been provided with some additional plans showing how the connection will connect to the school. And with that, I'll let the applicants tell you their construction plan.
Overall, it's a pretty small job. It's not as major. I mean, I guess the drawing does it justice for what it is. They currently have a septic system. I know the health department has had some problems just with the septic system and kind of been pushing in to get it replaced. So we had come in and they want us to basically get rid of the septic system and connect to the city sewer. The city sewer is right, I don't know if any of you have been to the property there, but right past the driveway where their driveway ends and it stops being concrete, or the pavement there. Perfect. You can see kind of on where it's located. It was marked, luckily. And Edgewood had done that stub prior to them being willing to connect. So the goal is to just get the septic disconnected and out of the completely out and crushed and tie into the city sewer.
Yep. We'll be working with Arco. He's going to pump, crush the tank. He's going to do the trenching. He's going to provide the erosion protection. And then Peter Breen is going to be doing the backfill and finish work on the driveway, bring it back to grade. We're going to be doing the tie-in to the drainage inside of the structure and any drainage repairs at that point that we need.
When you say sewer, when you say drainage, do you mean sewer?
Yeah.
Yes.
So like, I guess
You're not
the
stormwater
sanitary.
drainage?
No,
Yes.
the sanitary.
Yeah.
Sanitary drainage, that's what I thought you meant.
Correct.
Yeah. We envisioned this company, we're the ones who made the stuff, and you wouldn't have to cross it in the future.
Perfect.
Wait a minute, hold on here. Do I get my breath back?
We saw this coming years ago.
I'll send a bill to the
Yeah,
town, don't
we
worry.
were out there a couple months ago, and it looked like the line leading from the structure to the septic tank was having a little bit of trouble. And that was basically the final straw. You know, it was about time, and that's the position we're in now, so.
Yeah.
Also,
Al?
No questions?
Deb? No questions. Doug? Motion?
I move that we consider this to be a small project under the letter D.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
And I move that we approve small project D as proposed with conditions for erosion control and pre- and post-construction inspections.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. All set.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We'll get that out to you tomorrow.
We're going too fast, ladies. All right, next one is small project 219, 283 Campbell Road.
So you have some nice plans and photos in front of you regarding this project. Like any other tree removal project, we go out on site first. If trees are dead, dying, or dangerous, obviously, we do letter permits to allow for removal if they're outside of the no disturb zone. In this particular instance, there were 3 trees that were clearly had issues. One was a big white pine that had a big defect in it that I would have worried about. And trees 7 and 8 that you see on the plan, one of them leans super precariously toward the house. The other is big and its inclination is to lean toward the house as well. So with those 3, we would have allowed them to do this without a small project permit. The trees in the middle are more of their concern. They're alive, they're white pines, they're infinitely tall and, you know, very old, and all of their canopy is at the top. So, you know, they just have that
Just a matter of
precarious
time.
look about them. So with that, I asked them to file the small project. They did this very nice plan. They have plenty of photos of the trees, and they're here to represent themselves.
Joe?
One of the best small project applications I've ever seen. No questions.
Thank you.
To be truthful, I'm not a big fan of cutting live trees, but whatever the commission decides, because if, my thing is consistency, and my problem is with cutting live trees, if we let you cut the live trees, another applicant's gonna come by, and we're gonna end up with a whole bunch of people, we're gonna be in the tree business, and I really don't wanna be. But
Well,
the ones that are leaning, they're a safety factor, I have no issues with, not at all.
So we have been living in the home for almost 20 years, and we've seen these trees grow. And we've seen the seasons come, and especially the trees that are just topped off. They sway, and I know they're meant to sway, but they sway precariously, and we've experienced this. And our property has many trees, many trees. And like you, I don't like cutting down trees. This is all about safety. And what you're not involved with is there are several trees along the side and in the front that we've also requested to remove for safety issues. They are precarious, they're leaning in towards the house. And then, being a good citizen that we are, we also asked National Grid and now the town to remove 2 dead, similar tall trees that are on the road that are precariously next to the power lines. So the whole attitude we have is minimize what we need in order to make sure that our home is safe. There are other trees which are not tagged, that we're not taking down, that we see are pretty full, they're healthy, they don't seem to pose a danger, and we're choosing not to. We're not going off into the wetlands, we're not going to be expanding our small grassy area in the back. We're sticking to that footprint. I just want to remove the danger that we see and feel associated with those trees.
Yeah, Jen, that's where I came from too. Just want to be clear. None of these proposed takedowns are within the 25 notice strip. The closest is 50.
They're like, the closest is like 48, but yeah, they're good distance away. We measured every single, the closest one is, I think, if I just enlarged correctly, the photo to the left in the front, it's the one behind it, I think, is the closest tree to be taken
But
down.
even that 48 feet, we're not giving up any of
It's
the
not no disturb zone. If you
yeah.
came to us with a full-on project to do an addition and you needed to clear trees or a pool, we've allowed that. So, I mean, this is permittable. It's not unpermittable.
Al?
My only question is the person that would take them down for you is going to utilize, I would hope, some type of a system to take them down from the top,
Absolutely.
They're not-
They'll bring in the tall
not
crane.
just drop them.
Nope.
Okay,
They're going to bring in the tall crane and bring them out over our house, as a matter of fact.
so
So
that's good. That's my only question, thank you.
Deb?
No questions.
Doug?
No questions.
Motion?
I will move that we consider this a small project. I'm looking for the designation.
Type
L.
Type L.
This is
Yeah,
an L.
other.
Okay, so I'll move that it's an L.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
And I'll move that we approve Project L. With a pre, you want a pre and post?
I listed it there. I just said no equipment inside the 50, which sounds like is no issue. And
No stumping flush cut.
stumps to be cut flush, and a post would be good.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Post-construction
Opposed?
inspection.
That's unanimous.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your thanks or your compliment on the plan.
So
It is an excellent plan.
It is very good.
who, Al and Joe?
Joe.
Joey?
Gonna try to keep this easy.
Yeah, okay. Let's keep them all the same. It'll make it easy on
Oh, we're gonna
Jamie.
throw some
We're gonna
curves.
try it, we're gonna try
Oh,
that.
we're
Throw
not
some
done.
curves in a little while.
Okay,
It's only the
thank you.
first inning.
Thank you again.
See you guys.
Next one is an RDA for 7:30, Mass Ave, requested continued to 9:12.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, general business, 2
Nope,
foot,
notice of intent, not
I'm
general.
sorry, notice of
Sorry.
intent. 242, 1739 Ray Street subdivision, requested continue to 9:12.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And now you're recused, right?
Yeah, I can't,
Yeah. One,
the record will reflect, please, that I had nothing to do with that.
next one is 242, 1735, 1429 Osgood Street.
Ooh, I got the drainage report. So I think at this point you are all familiar with the project and everything that's going on. I guess maybe you could update them on the planning board last night.
Just a reminder, Bridget Souza with Allen Major Associates. So last night, we were approved by planning board for a site plan special permit for a contractor's yard in the CCD3 district. Right now, we have everything submitted. The only thing that's outstanding is the septic plans. We had received comments back from the Board of Health. We're working on those comments, updating the plans, but nothing will change in regards to layout. Those comments just address more details that they're looking for in regards to brands, types of tanks and distribution boxes and whatnot. So that's where we stand.
Joe, any questions?
Afraid to even ask it. So, I mean, the planning board reached a closure last night. We're probably darn close to that. We've just been waiting for that procedure probably to do that tonight. What have you guys been working on out there? There's a lot of construction activity, it seems.
No, we just have materials there. We're not doing any work.
I mean, again, I don't get out and look, but I drive up and down in the area. I look and I say, wow, it looks like something, but okay. Fair
We
enough.
dug holes there, but just for the test pits for the septic, that's it.
So I called out there today. They did bring some material from a job site out there. They were working out of another location. They no longer have that other location. So they did have material out there. They've since removed that material. And
Maybe that's what I'm saying.
they're gonna, now the planning board has their 20-day appeal period. So they've been notified that they should not be doing that sort of thing at this point.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we got stuck on the septic, guys, and we anticipated being in here and this process happening a little bit quicker. So I lost my lease on my other place. So I'm literally trying to buy days here.
Yeah, I
you
think
know?
we were close a while ago at this commission. We were really just waiting on those other boards to reach our conclusion. But I'm all set. No other questions if nothing's changed.
Okay.
Because I'm the same way, I probably buy that place pretty regularly. And the other day I went by and there was a lot of activity going on in the corner that I told you, I actually saw a six-wheel in the background. No, you haven't done you haven't taken out that concrete pad yet?
No, we haven't taken anything, we haven't done any construction except repair the inside of the office after a flood, which we pulled the permit for. And we opened up a door in the back, which we pulled the permit for. But no other construction has been done, certainly not outside.
Board of Health is the design. Where is the, is it going to?
The system's over, see the rectangle at the top, way out, it's outside the 100-foot buffer zone, but within Riverfront.
It's not even within Riverfront.
Oh, is it outside
So
Riverfront
you
too?
see that
Is
top?
that the second? So
Yeah,
it's not in
so
our
it comes straight
jurisdiction.
across.
When you
So it's
drive
not in our
in the driveway-
jurisdiction anyways.
Right, so we haven't had concerns, ever since the septic moved to this particular location, it really hasn't been our concern.
We're just waiting for planning board to close the loop, right?
Right.
All right. The only thing, I don't know if you've got it yet, I'd like to have a clean 21E on file.
We have one.
They have one, and they submitted everything to us, and
As long as you
Forwarded
got
to
one.
you
at
forwarded
the
to
last
me.
meeting, I forwarded it to everyone.
Right, okay.
It's all closed out, all buttoned up. It doesn't mean that, you guys couldn't come across something
course,
that
yeah.
worried you. It does remind me, though, I have drafted the order, and we do need to include in the order that you, at the end of this, you need to supply us with your illicit discharge
Yes.
statement.
Yes.
Right.
I didn't put that in the order, and you can remind me when we get to the order.
Al?
No questions.
Deb? Doug? Motion?
Question to Jen.
Yep.
Waivers, are there still waivers pending?
They need waivers of the 25 and the 50, which, in this particular, they did their alternatives analysis. This project results in a net benefit to the resource area. They're pulling up pavement, they're putting in bioretention, there's plantings. The site was in vast need of an improvement, and I think it's going to get one.
So how many waiver requests are there?
2 for work in the no disturb and the no build.
So they-
The no build zone
waiver.
is technically not,
So we need to vote and move one at a time?
I think you could move them both at the same time.
I'm prepared to move that we grant the waivers as requested of both the 25 and the 50, based on your inspection and recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
So close an issue would be my, unless there's anyone with any
Okay, I'll move that
comments.
too then.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. You're all set.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
All I ask, if there's any changes, that you notify Jen. We
Absolutely.
can do it in-house much quicker
Yeah.
than,
We don't anticipate any changes. Like I said, the only thing left is the Board of Health, and that's not even any layout changes.
okay,
Okay?
thank you. Yes, next one is 242-1740, 1160 Great Pond Road.
So at the last meeting, you had a couple requests on this one. The first was that they apply for their certificate of compliance for their expired order of conditions under which no work was ever done. They've since done that. The second was that they reflagged the wetlands, and they're going to address that with you. So,
There's, I think, 4 issues total. I don't want to make work, but.
We're interested in the,
Okay.
why, I'm not interested in the old project. The
Okay,
new
sure.
project that we asked to have the wetland delineated then, again?
Right,
And-
so.
And you've been reluctant, from what I understand.
Reluctance is a strong word. I think we're happy to do that. It's just when we would do that. So we'd like to do it before we start construction, just to make sure that the wetlands delineation is the same. So I'm not sure when, Ben can talk about when construction would happen, but if the board would allow, we'd like to have that as a condition of the approval, that the wetlands would be redelineated before construction starts. If there's a change that affects the layout, then we would change the layout to reflect the new wetland line. But where the wetland delineation is, and it's we're at the top of the hill, the wetlands are at the bottom, we don't really see that wetland line moving, or the buffer line moving. So we don't want to put wetland flags up again just to come down before we get to construction. We'd like the flags to be there, so when the contractor's out there, we know where the wetland lines are.
could you just identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm new to this, so at least to you. I've been involved in this project for the last 6 years. Ryan Clay, who you usually sees on vacation in Alaska, so I work with him on this project. My name is Eric Steinhauser. I'm the principal on the project. Ryan is the project manager.
I'm Ben Axelman from Nexamp. I was on vacation last time, but I'm the one who's been developing this project within Nexamp.
Any questions?
Well, for a science that can oftentimes be complicated, there is one thing that's always been consistently basic and simple, and that is where is the resource area? So request denied. You gotta flag it now. We need to know where it is in order to put it in context of what it is we're approving or not approving. To flag it later is unacceptable, period. And by the way, they do change from time to time, and this wasn't flagged all that long ago. It's probably not going to change much. So what you're really asking yourselves to do is verify the accuracy of what is out there. And if you do, in fact, start this project timely, that line's going to be good. And in fact, even if it does change, it locks it in for the 3-year life of the project, 3-year life of the permit. So I'm saying you have to flag it, period. No question, that's a comment.
I'm in agreement with Joe. Like I say, I've always, since I've been on here, is pushed for consistency, and we always have the wetlands delineated before we look at a project, because just like we don't approve projects that are still outstanding with boards, because planning board can change it, zoning board can change it, and we approve a set of plans that we look at, and all of a sudden, they're not the plans anymore because zoning and planning decided they want to do something different. To me, it looks like you're putting the cart in front of the horse. If like Mr. Lynch says, that as long as, if the flags aren't that old, it should be relatively easy for you to do it.
Well, they're just going to survey them back in. They're not going to reflag the wetland. So my recommendation to you, if you don't want to reflag them, is put something more permanent in the ground. They just hayed the field. So at this point, if you survey them in and drive something into the ground that you can find later.
So we don't need to redelineate, we just need to reflag?
No, just reflag by survey. I think that was why we thought.
Why do they not have to redelineate?
Because I'm going to go confirm that. If they drive the stakes back in the ground to where the wetland should be, and it's not, then we're going to talk about moving flags. But
So
I
they
don't.
may need to,
Yeah,
right
but
now,
I
it
don't-
probably hasn't changed much.
Well, this is what we did last time. So they've requested 2 extensions in the past, and at one point, somewhere in there, we had, the flags did get put out again. I think that's why this has become such a burden, is because they've done it a bunch of times, and then this is a hayfield, and someone goes out there and mows the place, and then the flags are gone again. But we haven't confirmed this delineation in a couple of years. Right.
Best way to prevent that is get the project started and finished.
I can simply tell you that I won't vote to close any project that hasn't been delineated and that delineation confirmed.
I knew
by
that,
you.
so I tried,
So
I
I'm
let
not gonna
Ryan
waste
know
any-
that last week.
We're not going to waste time discussing it as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Sure.
And Jen, there's no, I hate to to burden you with all this extra work.
No, again, confirming that we went out there because the project had been refiled, and we had a little bit of concern about what Brooks School had done with depositing material over there. It turned out to be all stabilized, grades didn't look to be markedly changed, and we kind of got over that issue. But we noted that we just were out there to reconfirm the delineation, and there were no flags, so we couldn't do that. So that's where this all started.
And it's no greater burden whether they survey it and then you verify, or they redelineate and you've still verified.
Well, I think their
It's the same
concern is
thing.
if they put the flags back out there now, they're still going to need them out there at the time of construction. So they may be doing this twice instead of just once. But I get it, but I knew
Preserve
what
it.
your requirements were, so I made that clear.
It's, you know, if it's your project and they're your flags, you make sure they're up. It's
It's just like the erosion control. You have to maintain it.
not a...
All right, Deb?
I concur with my brother's comments.
Doug? All right, so we're going to have to continue
Sure.
on this one.
I'll have the order, the order will be ready for the next meeting. We'll
Okay.
issue it, but we
No,
My
absolutely.
understanding is nothing else has changed, right?
No,
No, it's the same layout, it's the same thing that's been approved. You know, we were hoping to get the project in before the last extension expired, but, you know, the reason that this project has been delayed is, you know, delays in waiting for the new solar program to start, and now it's looking as though eligibility for that is being set up for early September. So we're trying to get all of our ducks in a row for that, and, you know, having an order of conditions that's active is important in terms of qualifying the project. So that's why we've been pushing for it. Understand that you want the flags there, and we'll make sure that that happens by the next meeting. We only ask that if that's the case, you know, if there are any other outstanding issues, let us know. Hopefully we can get the order of conditions issued pretty quickly after
That's my
that.
question I asked,
Yeah.
is as long as nothing else changed
Yeah.
and the line doesn't change, then
Yeah.
I think we're there.
Okay, so we need a motion to continue to the next.
what were the
meeting?
other issues you thought were outstanding?
There was waiting for the DEP file number, which we
Right, which we
received.
received.
There was
a lot to
a silt
go
fence
on.
backing of the filter lots.
Yeah, we just, there is silt fence out there, but I think they have I think Ryan agreed at the last meeting that we don't allow the hay with erosion, with plastic netting on it, so we just, especially in a field environment like that where there's all kinds of snakes and things moving around, so we had just asked that the erosion control be updated to the commission's bark mulch soccer, hay bales, but,
Sure. Is that a change you want to see on the plans right now? or
no,
is
no, that was
could
something
be a
we were gonna condition, but
Okay.
I think Ryan admitted that that was something that could be
All right, sounds
done
good.
easily.
In that case, we'll make sure that the wetlands have been reflagged by the next meeting, and that you're in the loop, and you guys can look at it beforehand, and then we should be in good shape if the line hasn't moved.
Yep, so September 12th will be the date, and I would expect that this would close an issue at that point.
So moved.
Second?
Second? Oh, you,
All
sorry.
those in favor say aye.
That was the curve out.
To close.
Opposed, that's unanimous.
He caught it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, comes general business.
General
C-
business.
CO, 242, 1045, COC request for 675 Chicken Road.
So
We're
we
still
sent
working.
out the paperwork to seize the bond, didn't receive any response, company's out of business,
Right.
those sorts of things. We did our due diligence, so now the treasurer's office needs an estimate of the work to release the amount needed, so to speak. I had sent around an email to Joe and Lou, I think, just you being the engineer, and looking for comments, and I think Joe has some, about the type of as-built that they want. So I just want to get clarification so they can move forward with getting the as-built done.
I spoke with the assistant DPW director, and he wants a full as-built.
Say it again?
The assistant DPW director, John Bugasi.
Yes.
He wants a full as-built.
Okay.
So,
Then that should be what we want.
then that should be what we
Well,
want.
full as-built can mean, in context of what's been requested of us from the high school, from Fred King and others, is how it is they produce that full as-built. Their ultimate question is, would an on-the-ground survey be required, or is an aerial survey sufficient, both resulting in a full as-built? And I'm going to say the aerial survey is going to be less precise. However, what we do have is a partial as-built already, and depending on its degree of completeness, aerial might be sufficient. If we've got all of the structures and we have all of the inverts and we know how they all connect together beneath, underground, if that's already on our partial as-built, then we're okay, and then the aerial would just verify limits of work. That might be adequate. On the ground, though, it's double the cost, and that's their ultimate. In either instance, there's enough money. The reason why we seized the bond was to get this as-built. There's enough money to do it the right way.
Let's do it right.
So let's do it right. I think
We're using the money that was posted in the first place. We're not taking money from the town. Let's get it done right the first time. We've done everything right on this project since the day they broke ground.
This isn't a homeowners association, this is us, we own it.
But what I'm
And
saying
we're
is-
gonna know we need to know where everything is.
Since the day we closed and issued on this project, we've done it right. There has been no corners cut on this project. Why would we start now?
Right.
And this is this is like a no-brainer. It's bond money that we're seizing from a company that's gone. I personally, I think it couldn't get any simpler.
Deb?
I agree.
Joe? Doug? Yeah, I'm in agreement with the rest of the commission. I think that they should do a full-blown.
So on the ground survey.
It's a public building.
On the ground, let's get it done right.
And it should be, so we know, like this, we had a fight with Verizon at the old center. They didn't want to do an as-built because as they went along, they moved the fiber optic, which made it critical that we had one, because if somebody goes in to go dig, they're gonna break the fiber optics, and then it gets very expensive. So I think utilities are an issue here, stormwater's an issue, making sure the building is where it is, and then everybody's on the same page.
Stormwater's huge on this project.
I know it is,
This is a huge stormwater.
I know, so,
Okay.
you know how
I
the
will
commission
convey.
feels. All right, thank you.
So I would say continue this for a month, because I don't think they're going to be back in 3 weeks
Well,
to,
we've got to send out an RFP
right. so-
anyway to find out who's going to do the survey.
Right. No, so they've still engaged with the company who monitored the work out there originally. So I think they have the company,
So they have a price for the on-the-ground,
right,
so that tells us how much to seize.
right. So I just think we just need to continue it till the second meeting in September, and we'll see where they're at with that.
What's our process in this? If we've already seized the bond, or do we need to seize a specific amount? Is that what our vote is that you're waiting on? Because all we
Oh,
need
so
to do
you-
is, all we need to do is tell the applicant which method to do.
Okay.
And then I think the
So you
process.
can vote, and then, I mean, we have a COC request in front of us, so that's the part I think we're continuing.
Gotcha.
But you can vote to seize the bond in the amount required to do the on-the-ground survey.
That's exactly right. The motion to seize has to have a dollar amount certain based
Okay.
on an RFP.
So seize bond in amount required to do,
You know, the cost of doing the survey could change. If something happens in the field, they want more money. So if there's plenty of money in the bond, seize the bond.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, we can't just arbitrarily do that.
well, I think we can do it in the amount to do the
Yeah,
on-the-ground
but-
survey.
whatever that amount turns out.
Turns out.
That's what I'm saying,
You don't know
yeah.
what it is.
Right.
Well, there should be an RFP telling us what it is.
Right.
It's a public project, there has to be one.
Yep.
What happens to the residual money on the bond?
Stays in
Stays in the treasurer's, stays in the treasurer's.
The town?
Yeah.
It goes to the town.
Once it's,
Yeah.
the town would then, outside of us, the town would then seize the balance of the bond and
Yeah.
release it at a future town meeting.
That's
It
correct.
becomes free cash.
That's correct.
So, because there's two, there's us.
We have to do it that
stormwater,
way. We have to do
and
it that
there's
way.
utilities and building. So it's not us seizing the bond independently, there's other boards involved.
No, it's just you, it's your bond. There are no other boards
It's our
involved.
It's a conservation bond, yeah.
This was and this goes back to our.
There may be
original
other
argument
bonds,
on this
but-
Commission 100,000 times.
Dollars equals compliance.
Dollars equal compliance, and everybody used to say, well, it's a public project, it's a town project, we don't really want the town bonding, we don't want to be bonding the town. And here's the perfect example, again, that the town hires someone else, and they go belly up. This has happened before. It happened on Chickering Road.
The culvert.
At the culvert.
The culvert, when the
And it was
culvert-
the exact same scenario. It was a quote-unquote town project, why should we bond them? And then the culvert failed, and there wasn't any money to fix it.
And
There was no money
We
to fix
told
it.
them it was gonna happen in advance.
And it just,
Still don't
you
want to
know,
listen to us.
you just can't, you can't succumb to that pressure. I don't care who owns the project, it's always a contractor at the end of the day that's doing the work, and this is what can happen.
Right, so we need a motion for a month.
To seize the bond in amount required to do the on-the-ground survey.
Yes.
They do doing the full on-ground survey, the 69,000.
Yes.
How much is the bond?
70.
70 plus interest, which is more than 70.
I think a hell of a lot. Simple rate
You know,
of interest.
basically seizing the whole bond.
Basically,
Okay.
yeah, understood. I know where you're going, but.
I mean, if they could do it for less, I'm sure they will. If there's information out there that's already available, they're not going to survey what they've already
The
got.
price
this
is
is-
already 69,000, so they're not doing it for less.
That's
than
right,
that.
that's right, just, you know, the
Money
money.
never goes
I think those are from the, off the hip, straight from the hip.
Yeah.
Guesstimates, and I don't think they actually have written proposals, which they need to get.
Right. All right, so let's get the motion out of the way.
Yeah.
Motion,
Joe and Deb, so all you need to do is vote.
motion a month. All those,
No, motion to seize the bond in the amount of the, required to do the on-the-ground survey is the first motion.
Motion second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. All
Now
And then a motion to continue for a month.
right.
Deb and Joe, I heard that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. I knew there was a motion to somewhere. All right,
That was the curveball.
the next one, 242-1691, COC request, Phase 2 to sidewalk and pedestrian improvements.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be here today. He probably looked at our agenda and thought he could be here later. But this was the swales in front of Royal Crest and the new sidewalk, as well as the sidewalk on the Volpe side of things.
They're working.
You know, regrading it and seeding it in July was maybe not the best move, but rains in August have helped them out, and things are pretty stable at this point. They cleaned everything out from the fall leaves, et cetera, so Savannah visited it today and said, good God, it's ready.
Curious, what's going on behind that sidewalk on the college side?
No, that's what was the problem, was those swales weren't stabilizing, and they...
No, there's the additional construction that's going on the campus side itself.
Oh, so new parking up front,
parking or
outside,
buildings?
out on the grass parking outside of the 100-foot, yeah.
They're fixing it, right?
What's that?
They're not making more park.
There is a new project, but that's on the interior and outside of jurisdiction. I think there was a dorm project or something a while ago.
No, they just broke ground in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, for the dorm,
Right
I
on
think it's a
120.
dorm project, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this looks good, I'm no questions.
All right, so we need a motion.
I mean, I have the,
You want a motion to issue the COC as requested?
Yes.
So move.
Second. Oh,
All those in favor say aye.
Savannah took a nice pictures. I
Opposed?
mean, it's not like 100%, but it's a swale on the side of Route 114, so.
Yep.
It's got grass in it.
Yep.
Nice.
And Richard. So there's a motion and a second.
All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Next one is 242-1621, COC request for 500 Great Pond Road.
So 500 Great Pond Road was the country club, which we also have some nice pictures of. You asked that we not issue the COC until the cart path had been gravelled and invasives had been removed from the detention, it's not a detention pond, but it's a
recharge?
water quality swale or recharge area. Both have been done, and I think the cart path looks great, way better than the eroded dirt that we saw last time.
Agreed.
So, and then we discussed the drainage changes at the last meeting. Things were off by about 6 inches on one part of the project site. John Moran had provided new calculations that said that was still adequate to contain all the storms. And I think we're ready to issue the full and final COC.
Any questions, Joe?
No questions.
Yeah?
On the photo that says frag removal, I'm looking at cattails. Were
Right.
there phragmites there?
They were in there, yeah. There were
they-
about
they-
half, maybe a dozen of them, just sort of interspersed in the cattails, and we
So they were-
said,
they-
solve it while you got the time.
Rescue the cattails? Okay.
Right.
Yeah, all set. Oh, sorry.
Do you have any questions? Deb,
No questions.
Doug? Motion?
Full and final.
Motion to grant a certificate of compliance final as requested, 500 Great Pond Road.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. That's Great Pond Road, COC request, is that the old one, Jim?
That's the old one, invalid OOC for work not done.
They never did anything. All right, no, I'm sure there's no questions. Motion?
What are we doing?
Motion to
It's an
grant
old, it's an
order.
old order that they never did.
On the solar field, the prior one, which they
The old-
never constructed.
So motion to grant certificate of compliance for 242-1578, citing that the invalid order conditions as work was not commenced.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is Inglewood Conservation Restriction approval.
So
Next is what?
Essex
Edgewood,
County
I'm
Greenbelt,
sorry,
Edgewood Conservation Restriction Approval. So you have a copy in your file. Conservation restrictions require the approval of the town, the Conservation Commission, the Board of Selectmen, and then the Secretary of Executive Office of Energy and Environmental
changed,
Affairs,
right?
EOEEA. And I thought Dave was going to be here to present this tonight, but this is the conservation restriction that was granted to us, not us, I'm sorry, was granted to Greenbelt on the Rockwell property. And it also, that project, Rockwood, right? Rockwood, Rockwell, I'm confusing. The last parcel left along the lake where Edgewood built their new project outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. But part of that was to get a conservation restriction on the remainder of the land behind that parcel down to the lake. So this is that.
Connect the trails together?
It also, so Edgewood previously had a trail along the, which was private, so that becomes public.
Yeah.
And then this new will connect all of Wire Hill through Edgewood to Half Mile Hill.
That's what I thought, yeah. What are the prohibited activities? Anything out of the,
So we don't,
Unusual
we don't
there?
control the, but it's the standard, Greenbelt uses the new model, CR, so Savannah reviewed it today. And said it was.
You keep saying Greenbelt.
Yeah, why?
Trustees though, isn't it?
Trustees hold the restriction on the old CR at Edgewood. So this is a new piece, which Greenbelt's
Which
holding.
Greenbelt will have, okay.
Why?
So is there typographical
So
error
we
in
have the
this?
same issue.
So I just have to
Do I
ask
have
the question,
TTOR?
why is
I thought I had E ECGA.
This is TTOR, that's why I'm asking.
That says TTOR? Oh, I'm sorry, it's David Santametta, not Essex County Greenbelt. It's David Santametta from the Trustees of Reservations. They are the ones holding the, I just
That's the
confused
grant.
that with
Now we
David Rimmer from, sorry.
That's consistent with what
Yes,
we'd expect
it's
to see.
consistent with what you'd
Just
expect to
gonna-
see.
I was getting ready to,
I'm sorry.
completely
Greenbelt doesn't
object.
It's been
I was
a,
gonna send this thing back to the drawing board.
it's been a long day.
Yeah, okay, that's all right. Acceptable.
The documents are correct.
It's acceptable to have a long day. I just want to make sure that we weren't,
No, you've
Thank
read
you,
it,
Joe,
you've
for-
read it right. I'm sorry.
all right. okay.
Starting over. They hold the old one. I was going to say, we were the ones who had the problem that when we wanted a conservation restriction on the rest of Half Mile Hill, TTOR didn't take it, and we gave it to Greenbelt. So my mind was there, not here.
Which is a conversation we'll have in the future regarding open space parcels.
At another time, but now that we're back on the right page, David Santamena was from Trustees of Reservations, was supposed to be here tonight to present this. He said he was going to be here. I'm guessing we're just a little too quick for everybody this evening. So we can
What was to be
table
done by
it.
the time he gets here?
We can table it because we have 2 orders to approve, and if he wants to go through it.
Is it necessary to have it gone through?
Well, I think if he's making his way here, then we should probably at
So
least
you
just
wanna-
wait till.
You want to do it
let's
last just in
let's
case?
do it last.
Just let's do it
Let's
last.
do it last.
Since I've screwed it up from the beginning, we should at least give someone the chance to do it right.
No, I think you've done a fine job. Nobody screwed it up. I see a Beaver solution in front
We
of me.
just started on the wrong foot.
46
Next one is
Hollow Tree is next.
46 Hollow Tree. Lally, request to continue to 9/26.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Emergency cert, 0 Ray Street. The Beaver was.
So, again, we have some nice photos, which,
I have a question for you, Jen.
yep,
This deals with
with the same project.
Zero Ray Street.
This is
So I
those
can-
abutters will come in complaining.
So hold on, I don't think I can,
You're
Right,
out.
you shouldn't,
all
you
right, so
shouldn't vote.
can you, I'm not going to
You're
participate
recused.
or anything, just recuse me, please, on anything that has to do with Zero Ray. Thank you very much.
So, we did a site visit with the planning board a couple weeks ago. The Board of Health was, oh, and here's David, was out there as well, and we definitely had flooding issues. Whose septic system and what septic system, it's just, the water's really high, and the beaver dam's really high. So the Board of Health is intending, they haven't yet, but will issue a declaration of emergency. So I'm asking you, because we're meeting before they've issued, to grant the emergency cert, and it will all be based on that application.
And the activity is just to install a beaver deceiver?
They'll have to do a small breach in the dam, approximately, I think, we have standard language that we've used with Beaver Solutions for ages now. I think it's a 2-foot, it's either 3 foot by 2 foot or 2 foot by 3 foot, but we basically specify what they can breach the dam to get the water level down, install the flow device, and basically restore the dam to a height that will allow the properties not to be threatened.
Questions?
No questions.
You can't talk? Doug? Motion?
Motion to put it in. No, declare an emergency and issue an emergency certification.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Does it need to be subject to action, similar action by the Board of Health?
It's just as soon as they declare the emergency, they have there's a time frame involved. Ours will be from 30 days from whatever day they issue theirs.
So that's actually my motion.
Right.
Is subsequent to the Board of Health ultimate declaration.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
One recusal.
One recusal.
Okay, and just in time.
We're
We have
gonna
been
go back
whipping through the
to-
night. And I already introduced you as Dave Rimmer, because I don't know where I got. You switching teams has just really screwed me up.
We already went through this. We're gonna throw you out of here, but
Yeah.
we'll let you speak, seeing that you came.
Do I need to push this to?
You can just tell them who you are
Okay.
and why you're here.
Sure. I'm David Sanchimena. I'm the Associate Director of Land Conservation for the Trustees of Reservations. Here tonight to present a conservation restriction on land associated with the Edgewood retirement community. I will say we suffered a total technical meltdown in our office today, so I was unable to print
Oh, they all have a
anything,
copy.
but you all have the package. So basically, this is.
Do you need one?
The only thing I don't remember is the acreage of the CR area. The
If
rest
you
of
want
it-
this for reference,
The rest of it I can remember.
You're
Yeah, that'd
welcome.
be great, thanks.
you're welcome to it. I know you're operating by the seat of your pants otherwise.
Yeah. So this is a restriction that was actually, is a requirement of the planning board's special permit for the latest phase of the community out there. So we are implementing effectively the will of the planning board in this regard. So, and the configuration of the CR area was basically established by the planning board, again, in that special permit, so we're just following their lead. I will say that it's a restriction we're happy to accept. I mean, we sort of look somewhat askance sometimes at these quote-unquote extracted conservation restrictions, because sometimes they don't have terrific conservation resource values. This one really, really does, so we're trying not to dam it because of the means by which it was created, but it does tie in very nicely to the existing pattern of protected land in and around Edgewood, our Ward Reservation, Lake Kitchitchewick. I think this is basically the last undeveloped, unprotected parcel of frontage on the lake, so it's nice to sort of get that tied up.
Just to defend the planning board, Edgewood came to the table with the offer of a conservation
Correct.
restriction on the remainder of the land. It wasn't extracted.
Yeah, right. It was a consensual
It was
thing.
mutual.
Yeah, mutual, exactly.
I think they saw it coming.
Yeah. So the restriction itself is very straightforward. The other thing I should say about in terms of the merits of this is that there is public access to the existing trail system written into the restriction, so that sort of comes as part and parcel of the restriction. The restriction itself is very straightforward. There's very little in the way of reserved rights, as you would expect, on the CR land, because they basically got to develop pretty intensively on a corner of it, and the rest of it is basically a hands-off kind of restriction. So we can do, or whoever the owner is can do, work related to trails and public access, work related to habitat restoration, dealing with, safety issues around fire and dangerous trees and things like that. But it's a very limited suite of reserved rights. So there's no building envelopes, there's no other phase of this project that's contemplated. So it's pretty cut and dry in terms of what the reserved rights are. So in terms of the process, so we've been through the negotiation with Edgewood around the language. We've been to the State Division of Conservation Services, went a couple rounds with them. We've now addressed all their concerns. They actually sort of changed the model conservation restriction on us in midstream, so we kind of had to rejigger it into a new format, but again, that was fine. So they've now said we have the green light to go ahead and procure the local signatures, which is from the town, and then to go back to the state for the final signature, which is the secretary at EOEEA. Maybe I'll leave it there for a second and see if there are questions.
Any questions, Joe?
Actually, I had the one question, I think you just elaborated upon it. What were the prohibitions? I guess my ultimate concern in asking that question was, you guys have been really proactive with controlled burns and managing the forest from that perspective.
Yeah.
That's still allowed here, because I think that's an integral part of managing this whole area out there.
Right.
How does, in the conversations with the state, I'm curious, do they embrace that approach?
The controlled burns?
Yeah.
They do. It's a pretty well accepted, habitat management tool at this point. It doesn't get used, it gets used a lot down on the islands.
think they've done it 3
But-
times here.
They have, but I think it's a little more, I think on the islands it's kind of like a pretty routine thing. I think on the mainland, it's a little more unusual, but yeah, we've done it, and it's been very effective,
And it's
and,
allowed,
yeah,
and we don't expect issues when it gets to the state for final signature.
no.
I have no other questions.
No, I mean, in terms of the way the thing is set up, you mentioned the prohibition, so basically it's set up where everything is prohibited, and then you add back in the quote-unquote reserved rights, so that's the way that the document is sort of constructed.
Al?
I have no questions.
Yep.
All set.
Doug? Okay, motion?
So this is to authorize
Well,
the Board of Selectmen to,
I
No,
don't think you get to authorize the worst.
no, you agreed to sign the restriction, or it's basically an endorsement of the.
So actually, what I would have brought with me, if our computers had been up this afternoon, is a document called the Municipal Certification, which just attests to the conservation values of the restriction. And really, it's a re-articulation of what's in here as sort of the
So
preamble.
the municipal cert wasn't in there, right? But
It was not.
I
I
can
was
run
working on it.
downstairs and print a blank one, and you can fill in the
I
rest,
can,
or?
if you be willing
you
to
produce-
vote it, and I can send it to you, you can,
Okay,
there's no, it's
we'll
not-
sign it at the next meeting.
Yeah, that would be
Okay.
fine, but if basically a
so
vote,
moved, authorize the commission to execute the certificate of
municipal certification.
certification.
And if you wouldn't mind working in a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen that they sign it, that would be helpful.
That's my motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. All set.
Super, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Probably a record
For us, it is.
turnaround.
So with that, you're also excused, because we already voted yours, too. I would have called you, but we're moving right along tonight. They're good. Yes, thank you.
All right, next one is 242-1728, 500 Blackson Street.
Is that, here it is.
That's the
So with this one, we would have signed this at the last meeting, with the exception that the folks who voted the waiver, the majority of them weren't present at the last meeting. So as you recall, this required some significant waivers with a lot of documentation behind it. So the order of conditions is pretty heavy with that documentation as well as conditions. If you look at condition 32, that's our standard language. So I was going to remove that last statement in our condition number 32. The applicant has not attempted to overcome the presumption of significance of the resource areas to the identified interest, because in fact the applicant did overcome some of, but I just think it's best to remove that statement.
Agreed.
So, condition 35 is regarding the historic dump area that, under the ORAD, you initially required restoration. We don't have the restoration plan of that area. That's the area that's actually in the dump, in the wetland, so we need that.
It's in the ephemeral pool, isn't it?
Correct.
In the pool, yeah.
Right, so they need to provide us with the plan of that restoration. But looking on to condition 36, they do have a buffer zone restoration plan, and that will be implemented. They do need to submit the planting plan for that, so I'm assuming these things will all come together. The bond is $6,500. If you think it should be more, we've been doing the 3,000, I guess it probably should be more, because I think we've upped our 3,000 to 3,500 per house, because 3,000 was your standard in like 1990.
That would be a standard order of conditions for a standard house fully complying with no waivers.
Right.
Do we up that when there are waivers? I would say yes. So that's-
I don't think it needs to be exorbitant. They are working within existing disturbed area. There is some work in wetlands, so I think probably
$8 grand?
8 would probably be appropriate, yeah.
that for the 2 lots, 8,000?
Correct. Again, they'll do the foundation as-built.
We had no discussion on phasing of this. Our presumption is they were just gonna do the whole thing at once.
And I
I
don't
think it has
think,
to be.
I mean, generally speaking, our
Because of the way the
better,
land works.
our better projects, you know, they'll have to do the remediation on the other side of the stone wall first, but I have to say some of our better projects construct the stone wall first, and then there isn't a whole heck of a lot of things to be worried about.
I asked the phasing question only because we should not separate the bond. It's one bond for the entire project.
Correct.
And that's it,
Yep.
not per lot.
They haven't identified stockpile locations on this plan. That's usually one of our big ones, but they need to do that ahead of time, as well as give me a detail of the construction entrance. Two things that in the bigger discussions somehow escaped us, but I think conditioning those things is not
We always have them,
When they come back in front of us, we can deal with that.
construction access and stockpiling.
So-
That's something when they have an actual plan.
Well, they have their actual plan. Generally, we require that to be on the plan. Again, I think we just discussed, our critique of this project was on a much higher level than is normal, so I think the small things sort of slipped through the cracks, so.
Do you want to be more definitive on that? That no soil stockpiling shall occur within 50 feet of a resource area? And that way if they request something?
I do say that,
We
but
do?
then I still want the locations identified on the plan, because otherwise they tend to be all over the place, and we don't want that either.
I agree. And like Joe said, to do this site, you're gonna have to do it all at once. Because it's a construction hazard.
So with that, with those amendments, I recommend approval.
Any questions, Joe?
None?
Al?
No questions.
Deb?
No question.
Doug? Motion?
I move that we issue 2421728 as drafted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And amended, because we
And
changed the
amended.
bond.
Sorry, and amended, as drafted and amended.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. The next one is 242-1735. The Osgood Street. Excuse me.
So this one too, a lot of documentation, stormwater review.
Yes.
Again, waivers were voted, so the 25 and the 50 apply as contingent upon the waivers. That's condition 34.
Need the 21 you reference? Or was that
I
Louis' request?
didn't
Or
because
it's already
we
there? already
have
it
it,
in the
so
record?
I don't know that there's anything we can require of
Was there
them.
something you asked?
No, we already have it in the record.
No, the illicit discharge statement we need on this project, because that's an existing building that hasn't been fully explored. This project, when they're doing the stormwater, if they were to find any, again, they're just gonna say at the end of the project, there's nothing left that's connected to anything that it shouldn't be, either discharging to the wetlands or to some sort of system it shouldn't be discharging to. So, I'll put in an IDDE condition. Again, random on the bond, this is redevelopment of a site, so I put 7,500. I was using, the template for this was 21 High Street, where they were putting a new building. We had that at 10,500. I put this at 7,500, but again, they're gonna disturb the whole site, so if you think it should be more,
I think it's a reasonable number.
okay. They didn't have a condition for no snow stockpiling or wetland markers. I think they talked a lot about trucking snow off this site, because they're gonna be using the site.
There's no room for snow stockpile.
Right, so I think we definitely need no snow stockpiling signs along the edge of the pavement where the bioretention areas are and the wetland line is. And we also need wetland markers. Again, it's gonna be hard to place them, but, so I kinda left the language vague about placing them, but every 50 feet, wetland markers and snow stockpiling signs.
What do we have for ongoing O&M evidence, especially with bioretention, where, you know, the success of those things in the long term is proper maintenance? Do we hold it to a higher standard of maintenance?
So we require that the O and M be maintained in accordance with the checklist, and that they're required to keep on site the prior 5 years. So if for any reason I'm out there and determining that things don't look good, or someone's complaining they're getting too much water, I mean, that's not going to happen on this site, but they're required to keep and maintain prior 5 years. And if at any point we request it, then they should have it on file. And we record the O and M plan with the order of conditions.
Does the O&M speak to like what they do on an annual or periodic basis to keep bioretention functioning?
It's a very detailed O and M, and it also has a checklist that goes with it, which
Okay.
they should be, quarterly, whatever they're doing their
The
maintenance.
documents are there and the burden's on them to do it.
Right, and generally what happens is, I think we had Chestnut Street recently, they come in front of us, they want to repave their parking lot, and we say, hey, how's the O and M maintenance going? And we want those documents. If they can't produce them, it's going to be a lot more work on their part, so. I mean, it's not perfect, but I think it puts the burden on them.
Just not green, yeah.
But annual reporting just puts the burden on me to chase them down for it. We did this to Dunkin' Donuts, and honestly, but we also did it to Butcher Boy, and lo and behold, quarterly, those reports show up without fail. So, I mean, I guess you could require it of someone and they do the right thing, but you could also require it of someone and spend all your time hunting them down. So, it's up to you. I can write it either way.
Well, I'm just curious, because I think as more and more often, we've been seeing LIDs coming in, both on subdivisions and individual projects. The success of all those for years to come, much like cleaning a catch basin, it comes right down to, how often do you fluff up the mulch and replace the mulch and make those, and replant in order for get the full biological benefit that they were intended.
I'll require annual submission and we'll see what happens.
At some point, we do have to have a discussion about that. In possibly even keeping a part of the bond in lieu of.
Well, no, that gets
Ongoing
complicated.
bonding, really complicated.
So the planning board has done that on several projects where for the first 5 years, they require and we did it to Dunkin' Donuts because of the strange system, the high maintenance system, sand filter or whatever they put in.
Greenfield.
Required them to have I think we had 5 years worth of maintenance in an escrow account. But I don't know that this rises to that level.
I don't think so either.
Just one question on number 78. No material storage shall occur within the 50-foot no build.
Their material storage, not our material storage. So they have material storage on the site. We made them move all of the storage bays outside of the 50-foot, so they need to stay that way. The material can't sort of migrate its way over into the 50, and I wanted that as a perpetual condition because, as we all know, stockyards have a tendency to move.
Well, they're gonna be removing that foundation and floor in the back of the building.
That's well outside of the 50.
Yeah, but where are they gonna put it?
That's got to go off-site. They're not keeping that.
When? That's my, we should require them to remove.
So this material,
Well, they have to-
this material storage, you're talking about permanent product.
Permanent, their product.
As opposed to construction
I'm
storage.
talking about now.
But they have a stockpile area on their plan, so they can't stockpile outside of their materials stockpile area.
That's gonna be huge.
We can condition that to be part of what they submit to us as the construction sequence.
Okay. Yeah, just so we know when they're gonna, because they stockpile like concrete on site. Could be quite a mess. And it's right next to the wetlands.
So condition 43 is the detailed sequence of construction. So we got to take residential building construction out of there anyway. So we'll add removal of concrete foundation.
And floor.
And slab, or, okay.
All right, thank you. Alan, any questions?
No questions.
Deb?
No questions.
Doug? Motion?
Move that we adopt approve the order of conditions for 242 1735 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. That should be it, right? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.